I have an idea, but it will have to wait. Well, I guess Dominion could also be the idea. Yeah, buddy, recently, thank you Games Workshop, I received a copy of Dominion. And what better chance to create some content and add to my own existing ranks of Stormcast than this one I've been given right now. So in this video, I'll be creating a green metallic armor. As I see it, the Stormcast... Hold on a second. Hi, everybody. As I see it, I wanted to create kind of an escalating progression of important armor in the Stormcast. So the rank and file just have a regular kind of dingy gold. As you go up, you get some of the more specialized versions like entirely silver or entirely green. So let us do that and create the heavily armored Green Man. In the beginning. First step, I've got some metal color from Vallejo. Spraying that through my airbrush and controlling the angle, just spraying downward, taking advantage of the three-dimensional aspects of the figure. I'm just gonna hit my paper towel real quick, just get any of the excess spray out of there, and just very, very gently aim at the top of his hips here. Just like painting with the brush, work in many thin layers when you're using the airbrush. I will come back and hit this multiple times. Just very slightly. I want to create a lot of shadows with this pass as well as this mid-tone. And coming back for a second pass, just to make sure everything is nice and solid. Concentrate a little bit more on that chest monster. And following that, I have a little bit of silver from Vallejo model color mixed up for the airbrush. Just be applying just a little bit of a brighter tone in this upper area, kind of focusing this on his shoulders and chest. Maybe just a little bit on the top of the hips. It's all about creating an undercoat, and even though this is a very subtle gradient, well, I'm all about the subtleties. That's miniature painting 101. For the next step, I've got a little black on my palette. I just want to go and add a little bit to the shadows, I guess without moving this shield around too much. But I want to take just pure black, kind of smooth out some of those shadow areas that I was attempting to create. We'll put the shield down. We'll keep it right here in blurry view. But it's all about the undercoat for what I'm going to be doing next. I want to make sure that these shadows are well established. I'll add some highlights in a second, but you can see I'm just going across the model using some diluted black to control the shine just a little bit more, some key areas. Just like so. So, keep working away, we'll get this step wrapped up and jump back. Alright, and you can see just a little bit of a shaded enhancement, just like so. Let's just add a little more, another layer to there. I want these prominent dark areas to be able to show through the wash that'll lay down. But also, before I get to that, I'll take some silver and I want to add a level of highlights. I'll be kind of edging along on some of these larger panels. I'll be picking out the rivets. A little bit on the top of the knee there, right on the bottom of the knee pad. You can see just adding these, just a series of edge highlights, but with this bright silver. Maybe just a little bit of a blend. But take your time on this part because you want this to show through the murk, through the wash that will be used to colorize everything. So Just make sure that your edge highlights are firm, true, and pure. The lion's mane. So I think you get the picture. I'm going to continue along with this step, and then we are going to jump back for the fun part. Having it lined and defined, the next step, I'll grab some orc flesh from the contrast paint range. I'll add just a small amount of water to that, but really heavier on the amount of contrast paint. Then over all these areas that I want to be green metallic panels, they get a hit of that contrast. And just remember to kind of section the model off, work on one section at a time. With contrast paint, it needs to have a very even surface tension as it dries, so just make sure that these coats are properly connected to each other. You can see it as a nice, easy, and effective result. Very eye-catching, pretty simple approach. Yeah, we'll get this guy all greened up, and we'll have a look at the next step. Alright, styling and profiling. Let's finish off these metallics. Next thing I want to do is take this Blighted Gold from P3, move the shield, paint in a lot of his trim. As I'm doing this, I realize that I forgot to paint this section green, so no worries. I will just reel back time and do that off screen. But the next step at hand, be taking this Blighted Gold, adding this tarnished shiny gold to all of the border, all the little bits of lightning trim. But yeah, just another quick color blocking in. I want to get the metallics out of the way so I can change my water. With all those metallic and contrast areas filled in, the next thing I'm going to do is take some dark sea blue from Vallejo. Get a base coat down on the space and the shoulder pads. While I'm waiting for that to dry, I'll take some of this German gray, touch his belt, as well as the gaps in his knees and his elbows. Now on the shoulder pads, I'll reapply that dark sea blue, and I'll also grab a small amount of sand yellow, wet blend it together just to start off a quick gradient. And mixing in just a little bit more while everything is still wet. I love the thickness of these Vallejo paints. They really give me a lot of time to work my wet blends. Apologies for the wet paint can tend to be a little bit glossy and shiny as it dries. Grab a little more dark sea blue. And shazam. We'll let that settle and dry a little bit. Let's grab some white and German gray. Make a much lighter gray. Just drop some edge highlights down on his belt. And once again, the grooves in his knees and elbows. And I'm feeling it right here on the shaft of his axe. I think I'll give that the same treatment with this German gray, enjoying this new color that I picked up. I have to give that handle the same wet blending treatment. And we'll also hit the straps, holding his bracers on. He has some little tabs sticking out where the shin plate is attached as well. Looking good. Let's take a little bit of that sand yellow, dark sea blue, mix it up off to the side. Take most of it off of the brush, just very smoothly glaze it up towards the top and right here where the shoulder pad flares out a little bit. Just start our many thin layers, getting a nice smooth progression on this little opaque area. You can really focus in on it because a lot of the other spaces are pretty easy to work with. You know, just being metallic and such. And to that mixture of sand yellow and dark sea blue, add just a small amount of Liquitex titanium white. Brighten it up ever so slightly. Also take a little bit of the dark sea blue, thin it down. Just kind of reestablish my mid-tone, smoothing that out ever so slightly. And I'll even add a little bit of black to that, go a step deeper. And I'll even add a little bit of black to that, go one stage deeper. Do this in a few layers, very thin. But again, this is a very small opaque area. There's not many other areas where I'm adding brush blending, so this is actually a relatively fast process. So I can take a little bit of time, do some extra blending right in these shoulder spaces. Also, while I'm at it, I'm going to be getting the model ready for another round of washes. This is a few areas where I will control where the shine is happening, just like after that airbrush pass. Since all of these blighted gold spaces are just nothing but blighted gold without any bit of shading on them, let's go do a little dancing. Next on the docket, I have some black templar contrast paint and some wyldwood. So all of the areas that were blighted gold, let's just thin this down slightly with water. I'll be applying a wash. It's a little diluted layer of wyldwood contrast paint. You could make your own ink wash, I think would be a good area for this, but I just happen to have the contrast paints, so I enjoy using them. Just lay it nicely over all these gold areas. I can dig it, and yeah, in some of the spots where I added a little extra shading, it's going to grab and do its thing, showing a little bit of a shadow through the wash. And also any areas that are bare silver, add just a small amount of water to the black templar contrast paint. Lay that over the grays that are on the belt, in the little crooks of the elbows and the knees. His metal loincloth here, his scale mail, there's the word, scale mail loincloth, this little silver piece of his shoulder pad. Lay it down across the hammer, all the silver areas on the shield as well. Just another round of washes, really. All right, following that round of washes, all the metallics are done except one thing. Go back and do one more round of these final fine silver highlights, just on the edges, just on the corners. Okay, the rivets too. And even on the areas that are painted gold, it will still reflect up to this very bright silver. You can see the effect it has comparing one side to the other. Pressing very lightly. I don't want to completely cover every edge, just kind of right where the line is about to end or drop off. Pulling my silver highlight up in that direction, just at the peak of the knee, right on top of the kneecap. All right, maybe just the smallest lick of a spit blend. No battle plan lasts past the first turn, as well as no paint job in these parts. This will help sharpen and define everything. So I'll carry this through and we'll jump back when it's complete. Let us quickly take care of this tiny little chest jewel. I have some Vallejo violet already base coated on the surface. Add a little bit of black to that. Shade it down. It's such a small object that I don't have to put a lot of attention on it, just the basics. So we'll throw a little bit of a shadow onto it. I'll add a touch of white into the violet, brightening it up, paint up 1/4. Just that upper facing, that's kind of facing up in the direction that he's looking. Get a little touch of white. And just place the dots right on all the edges. Shiny. To create the skin tone, I'll take some whole red, since I have it handy, some of this sand yellow. Combine those together until I get the right look. I'll add a touch of white to it as well. That give me a nice basic flesh tone. Smear that around his scarred face. Excellent. Take a little bit of pool off to the side, adding a bit more whole red to the mixture. Let's quickly just kind of wet blend things together, just right along the side of his cheekbone, the side of his face. A little bit down low as his face kind of sinks into his armor. Bit across the forehead, but not too much. Now jumping back to that first pool of paint, I'm going to add more white to it, more sand yellow. I'll pull out his cheekbones, his eyebrows, kind of line around that scar on his face, get the nose. It's a little abrupt, but I'm going to throw a wash down on top of this. Let's get out a touch of flesh wash from Army Painter. And apply it thusly, just sweeping it down into all of the crevices. I don't want this face to look perfect, I just want it to look cool. This is for my tabletop army, so I kind of veer off and go for a nice B+ level of quality. And when I lay down a little bit heavier, Army Painter washes work very well, in my opinion, especially on a more textured area, so I can lay it on a little thick, let it seep into the crevices. Alright, we'll zoom in a little bit closer, get my water down some black. I'd like to dark line around his jaw, right where his face plugs into the armor. Still a bit of a wash down in the crevices, and that's fine. It's grabbing the black paint, spreading it out. Just a little bit of a darker dip in there. Also take a little bit of black and add it to the hull red. He is squinting very hard, so I'm just going to darken his eyes in. Get that scar as well. Make it nice and deep. All right, let's see if I can make his eyes white. Not too bad. Grab that highlight color out again. Just brighten up some very small areas, just the nostrils, the top of the nose, those cheekbones again. All the areas that I highlighted previously, but I'm just covering less of that area. Decent. Let's work on that base. I'm going to take some intermediate blue and coat just about the entire base. And while it's still active and wet, I'll grab a little bit of black, or a lot of black, and start wet blending it in, creating some shadows where there's a bit of an overhang. Can add just a little bit of water to the situation, help the paint to spread. Doesn't have to be pretty, it'll be underneath the snow base as well, so even less pressure to make this look perfect. It's more about doing it quickly. We'll grab a little bit of green brown and hull red. Let's give this skull a touch. Again, I'm not too concerned about this skull. That'll be partially concealed under the snow. Add just a little bit of white to that. And let's add, now we'll take a little bit of white and add it to that intermediate blue. Just very lightly dry brush, pick out all this texture across all these crags and rocks. I'll even hit the skull. I care not for the skull. It's merely here as a decoration. And if it looks like I've already dry brushed this, that's correct. I accidentally forgot to film it and just pretended to paint something in front of you, but I did not want to leave that step out. Then we can load up the palette with a little bit of dark tone, water that down about halfway, smother this base in a dark tone. Sidebar, let's talk about this tail. Purity seal. Kind of left this off of the menu, but for the sake of including this in the complete process video, I don't want to leave it out. So let's first start off with a base coat of Vallejo buff. And while it's still semi-wet, doesn't quite matter. I'll take some charred brown from the Vallejo game color range, some dark sea green, just to keep everything kind of in the green range. You see it gives me a nice colder brown. Well, damn that reflection. We'll be able to see it on the model. Right here. Gives me a nice cold brown tone. And I'll just be wet blending these two colors together so as it dips into this shadow, as it reaches towards the end of the purity seal. I guess I might be confusing my terms here. Purity seals are a 40K thing. This scroll tail is an AOS thing. Glad I got that straight. Makes sense now. We'll just be creating a quick gradient, just like so. I want to tuck this highlight into the shadow a little bit further. And we'll go back to that shadow tone, just correcting things along the way. And we have a decent gradient. While that dries, I'll go ahead and mix up a little bit more of my cold brown. I'll paint the underside of the scroll tail. Now I'll once again take that colder brown mixture. Let's add a good amount of water, make kind of a washy consistency. And just very lightly sweep it over all of these runes. I'm going to be adding a wash to this, but a wash is only as good as a layer of paint underneath it, so it helps to just define all those runes. And now adding a little bit of strong tone from the army painter. Just a very small amount. I'll take some off on my thumb. Just like with that washy coat of paint. Sweep this over the scroll. Switching over to a much finer brush, I'm going to take some Vallejo buff, combine it with Liquitex titanium white. Add a little bit more. And we'll just drop an edge highlight, kind of lift and drop my brush. It's a scroll after all. It's going to be a little bit crinkled, especially after flapping in the breeze created by the Annihilator as he charges forward into the depth of battle, into the fray. And wherever the scroll is brightest, drop a slight edge highlight. I could go crazy highlighting all these runes, but I just want to touch a few of them. Just kind of give a general impression. The idea is to go a little bit faster. This isn't going to be entered in any kind of competition. The only competition that you need to worry about is the competition in the mirror. Do you like what you see? If not, highlight all the runes. But personally, I'm happy with this. I could drop down and shade a little bit to the Vallejo buff. I'm not going to lose much sleep or pull much of my hair out over every little runic highlight. And there we go. That was a lot of fun. 360! Look at him spin. And why paint one when you can paint a whole bunch? Thank you for checking out this video. I hope it served to inspire and motivate you to paint your own green men. Or perhaps you could create a different color by switching out the green contrast paint for something like red. Only red or green. Those are the best colors. So when you walk out that door, remember, everything that's green is better than the rest.